Hi, everybody. Nancy Cox here. My beautiful wedding picture that you see up there. So anyway, I have been, most of you probably know me by now, and those of you who don't, I have been a member of the Minnesota Nature Photography Club for probably a dozen years or so. Was on their board, actually was responsible for getting judges for a couple of years. And kind of as a result of that struggle, because it can be a struggle sometimes, securing those folks, I decided to take the class, took the class, and started judging, and been judging around the kind of the circuit. And then a couple of years ago, just prior to the pandemic, there was about 9 people that we had in a class to get more judges available for these salons. And so John Anderson, Daryl Tangen, and I put that together and presented it. And I think there's 9 new people out there doing judging, and I understand doing a fabulous job. So
I
and
agree, Nancy.
yeah,
We've used some of those new judges and
oh,
they're fabulous. You did a good job with them.
well, they did a good job, and we happen to be there to help, nurture them along some. But you start by being a decent photographer, and sometimes I feel like, well, that's a subjective thing that I might be a better judge than I am a photographer. It's hard to know based on what you all might think at the end of this salon. You can make up your own mind. But I enjoy doing it, and I'm glad that we can provide a service to.
Because yours is a full screen or?
No, mine gets screwed up again.
So anyway, whenever you are ready, you can bring things up, but just a little piece about what I look for. A lot of what I look for is, as does any judge, is kind of that wow factor. And again, as you're looking at the images, you're going to see ones that really stand out for you and others that might not. And again, it's all a learning process. And I really think this judging process is not so much about, critiques, and although that's part of it, but I really want it to be an educational process for folks, because there may be newcomers who are just starting to put into the salons and starting to compete and getting their feet wet. And I'm hoping that it's an educational opportunity for folks. And so I look for, wow factor. I look for simplicity, really about trying to understand, what do you want me to look at? Some of these images were completely clear about that. Some were not so much, and we'll talk about that and how you might be able to make that a little bit more kind of salon ready, if you will. So hopefully this will be a fun evening, and I'm not sweating yet, but I might be, who knows? But I hope to make it kind of a fun evening.
Well, Jill
And
will
I'll shut
be
up now.
Jill Jill would be announcing the title of every image, and for the ones that received acceptances, she'll include the name of the photographer. And if you could just let me know when to change images by saying next, so I'll make sure that happens.
I sure will, Terry, you bet.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, we'll start out with our assignment images, and we will start with the sixes. First, we have Palm Springs Tableau.
Okay, so the assignment was reflection, and so I really had to be very these images had to be, specific to that assignment. And though I enjoy that, I actually take a lot of these kinds of, images of hood ornaments and various things. I love the cars. However, this one does not really fit into a reflection category. And so I would just like obviously you've got a little hint of it up there in the corner. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but that's the piece, is really look at how this reflection could have been taken and actually fit into the category. So so that's why this one gets the 6. So keep working on it. You'll get it. This one also.
Next we have
Oh, I'm so
Tiger
sorry.
Tail
Yes.
Beach.
Sorry.
I'll say the titles. It takes a little bit.
Okay.
Tiger Tail Beach.
Okay. I like this in terms of it. It's very cool with the bird, you know, flying behind the child, and you know, it's a really sweet image that way. A couple things on that is it really doesn't fit in with the reflection. The reflection is not the aspect of this image that it could have, should have been. Waiting until, you know, this kid is a little closer in so that the reflection actually does it, and then kind of honing in. So because the, you know, the lower aspect and with the puddle minus the reflection aspect does not really add to the image. So just keep that in mind while you're taking those images. Next, please.
Okay, now the 7s. We'll start with Autumn Glory. Autumn's Glory.
Okay. All right, thank you. This clearly is a reflection image. I think he did a great job with you know, exposure and that perspective issue, and so, and obviously the colors are really quite lovely. What would have taken this up a notch had there been perhaps a bit more interest in the clouds, because, you know, it's a really lovely snapshot. I don't know that it's really salon ready. Had there been some other foreground interest or interest in the sky with the reflection in the lake with the clouds, it would have put this up higher. Next, please.
Next is, and I'm changing the name a little bit here to Clearing Storm. I don't think clearing is what we wanted.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
I could be wrong.
Okay. Actually, there's quite a lot of interest in the sky, and that is the thing that I believe that this photographer really wanted to accentuate. And so I think it really does fit into well into the assignment, and so I think the reflection was done well. The couple of things that may have been different on this, again, sort of the landscape part of it is there's not really a lot of excitement in it. And that's one piece. And the other piece is it looks like it's perhaps a little too sharpened. And so just in your processing, it kind of gives that vibe of it being maybe a little bit overdone for the clouds in order to get the reflection, you know, popping. So that is why it received a 7. Next, please.
Next we have Dagmar Self-Portrait.
Okay. Definitely a reflection, and again, those are fun images to take, and I see, you know, the intent is really well received, and the piece that I think that you did well on is like managing kind of the exposure and so forth, because it looks like a pretty sunny, bright day. So I think you handled that really very well. The piece that I think would have shifted this and upped the ante here for me is be aware when you're taking these kinds of images, you have a lot of extraneous stuff in the reflection, you know, the people, and I realize you can't ask them to, you know, please leave the shot. But had it just been sort of an individual person in there, it would have actually scored higher, because it's a little distracting with that you've got a number of different people that are just kind of in the way. So that would, minus that, it would have scored higher. Next, please.
This is Downtown Reflection.
Okay. All right. I think it's a beautiful portrait work, fisheye, obviously, lens. And so I think that is actually, done really quite well. You've got, center stage with the dancers. A couple of pieces, and this one's a little nitpicky, is just watch your edges, because you've kind of clipped off that one building up top. And again, I don't mean to be picky-yoon, but you could have taken that up just slightly and then included that, because I always look at edges when I do judging, and have you clipped something? And if you cut it out like a significant amount, that means it was on purpose. This does not look like it was on purpose. But that aside, the reflection actually is good, but it's really a competing image here between the dancers, because that's what the focal point is, versus the reflection. So, and you don't really have their reflection all that well. You have the buildings, obviously. So what are you trying to tell me? The assignment as a reflection, or is this a beautiful, portrait of these dancers? So you were kind of in conflict, and I was in conflict as the judge of this. So, that's, that's kind of why I didn't get an 8, because I think it was otherwise well done. Next, please.
Okay, this is Egret Flight.
Okay. Several things I really like about this. I like how you positioned this really well in the frame. You left some room in front for the bird, their flight. So you manage that actually quite well. I love the colors of the water. It's beautifully done. So I love that kind of reflection aspect of whatever, trees or whatever's, and sky that's causing the beautiful blue and greens in there. The piece that was, you don't have a great reflection of the bird itself, just because of the ripples in the water, and that's just reality. But the piece that kind of kept it lower was the bird itself is not terribly sharp. And so if you really look at that, the eye is not sharp, the beak is not sharp. So in an artistic kind of creative manner, it's a nice image. But you're going after trying to get the sharpness in the bird. So just be aware of that piece. So that is that one. Next, please. Okay.
Next is Frozen Reflections.
Okay. The definitely, fits the assignment. The reflection is done nice. It's, it's a beautiful scene with obviously with the snow on the trees. And and it looks like you may have a little sort of fog in there too in the center. So it's a very pleasing image. You managed again the exposure fairly well. I didn't see really, there's probably a few blown out places in the snow, which kind of pulls your eye away from things, like on the left-hand side of this image. It's a bit hot. And so if you could certainly bring that highlight down a bit. But then the other piece of it is, although it's sort of a pleasing thing in terms of, competition and really kind of pushing the limit, I may have, you may have kind of created a vertical on this, because it seems like it's kind of two separate images in some way, to the left and to the right. So you might want to try a vertical for a change on something of this nature. All right, so next, please.
Okay, I hope I say this right. Horned Grebe Reflection.
All right. Okay. Again, handling the exposure really done well. Again, love the colors, love the softness of the water and the ripples there. It's really quite lovely. The grebe, itself, fairly sharp. I like sort of the eye to eye kind of, image of it. And so I can see why you, put this one in the salon. The piece that really would have helped, because you want the reflect, it's like it's too much information. You have a lot of what's the space called, negative space, and in like really cropping in on the bird itself would have made this a much stronger image. One piece about sort of his pose is you may want to try one that has just more information and more of the bird present in the image. I think that would have made it a stronger image as well. So, all right, and next, please.
Oxygenation.
Okay. I enjoy, this really gives a mood is what it provides. I like the kind of foggy nature of this, and it is not monotone, but it's close to that. So I like the mood that it provides, and you managed the highlights pretty well. There are some spots that are a little hot, kind of center left, upper, just underneath the ferns, basically. But the other piece of this is, in terms of it getting a 7, is the reflection was really not, to me, the primary focus of this image. It's there, but I'm sort of more looking at the person. I'm looking at, the borders of this and the greenery and so forth. And the reflection is sort of there, but it's really not a major aspect of this image in my estimation. So, that's why it got that. Oh, next. You're too fast for me, but it's okay.
This
Not a
is
problem.
redneck grebe.
Oh, you're just trying to hurry me up. Is this like the Gong Show or something? You're done, Nancy. All right. No, go ahead.
Oh, it's redneck grebe.
There you go. Again, a really beautiful portrait of this bird, and in its natural environment. So it really stands out as a really lovely wildlife image. The environment is really I think a wonderful aspect of this image. The piece again that's missing is the reflection is not the main focus of this. It's not the major subject, it's the bird that's the subject, and you don't even have much of its reflection in there. So that's why it lands at a 7. So all right. Well, beyond that, I think it's a great picture of the bird, and you may want to put it in a different salon for wildlife or, for nature, because I think it would have scored higher. It would have scored higher. Okay, next.
Reflections on Swift Current Lake.
Okay. I think you handled, again, the exposure well. It looks kind of midday-ish to me, but not blown out in any sort of way. I think you get a nice, view of some of the rocks in the foreground and underwater there. You've sort of done the, reflection right dead center. With this kind of an image, it's hard not to, because you want foreground and that gives it context, and you can't really take much more off the top because of the high peak. Had there been some, you know, some snow caps, some, you know, some other aspects of this image to give, you know, a little more interest, I think it would have scored higher. I kind of went back and forth on this because I think you did a nice job on the reflection and it does fit in with the assignment beautifully. It just doesn't have that kind of extra pizzazz, that extra wow factor. So that's why it scored what it did. All right, next.
Here is Stretch.
Yeah, I love the title. The bird is a nice subject. You know, the water is done, you know, done well, the exposure done well. So a lot of things were done well in this, and it definitely fits in with the assignment. The bird itself is not sharp. And so that would be, you know, changing up on your shutter speed, and it might have been, obviously is probably moving. You can see movement in the leg, and it just wasn't a sharp image. So that's why it did not score higher. Next, please.
This is Sunset, Willow Landing.
Okay. All right, and so I think I like the starburst, you know, in the sun, and I think you did that really well. You kind of have a nice S curve, and you know, you have some of those nice movement aspects to this image. And the thing that kind of pulls it down is if you look up into the sky, I think you have some dust spots. If you look into the reflection, the water area, you've got several dust spots as well. So you need, yeah, there's one, and then up in the left area, there's two in the water. Go down a little further into the open water. But yeah, anyway, so you have to take a look at that because that's going to make it, you know, you need to get rid of those basically, and they're easy to get rid of. So, and the other piece of it is, you know, the snow and the ice is not that compelling in this image. And in terms of reflection, it really is not, that does not jump out at me as part of the allure of this image. So so take a look at those pieces, and that's why this received a 7. Next, please.
Here is Wildflower Preserve.
Okay. Again, I like the mood of this. I like the, you know, the monotone aspect of this. You have an interesting foreground, some interesting subjects in the foreground. I like that rock there. It kind of grounds this image. The piece that brought this down is if you look at the reflection, you know, that one scraggly tree is, you know, I don't mean to be disrespectful to trees, but it's not the best looking subject. And the reflection is not the best looking, you know, part of it. So so that kind of, that's what my eye focuses on, is sort of the scraggly thing. And I don't think that you really wanted me to focus so much on that, but that's where your eye goes. Or that's where my eye goes. So just be aware of what your subject matter is and how to really enhance it so that it pops out at you. So, all right, so next.
Next is Willow Landing Bridge.
Okay. I like the bridge. I like the textures in the bridge. I think the bridge is an interesting subject for sure. You know, the person in there, it can be there or not be there. It's sort of a really an unnecessary aspect to the image, because you kind of go to my eye goes to the person to see what they're doing, rather than sort of enjoying the bridge. It also, again, your assignment is the reflection, and the reflection doesn't give you a whole lot. And had you brought it back and gotten the full reflection also of the upper aspect of the bridge, it may have made a difference, but I'm not sure. So looking at doing a vertical rather than a horizontal may have made a difference, but I'll never know. All right, so next, please.
Okay, we're going to move into the 8th.
Aha.
We will start with Alaska Beauty by Mary Johnson.
Okay, yay, Mary. I find this very pleasing, primarily kind of in an artsy way. Is it, you know, the prettiest mountain I've ever seen? No, the reflection is lovely. The fog, you know, is really what enhances this, and the way, even though your horizon, you know, essentially is right in the center, but with reflections, they tend to be. So that's not, that didn't bother me at all, but I really love the artsy, soft aspect of this image. It's quite pleasing. So nice job. Next, please.
Here is Eyes on Hawaii, Mike Waterman.
Okay, Mike. A very, I think it's a very nice image. It's creative. You really, you know, you get the reflection, obviously, and so it really, you know, fits. Even though it's not the, you know, largest aspect of this, but you really get that. A couple of things that maybe would have made this higher, and I kind of played with it a little bit, just in cropping in the highlights up on the left, you know, all that white, your eye kind of goes up there and it's a bit distracting. So what I did is I just cropped in sort of from her mouth to her mid forehead and really pushed it to make the glasses much more outstanding in the image. And that probably even would have put it higher. So you may want to play with that just for your own purpose, but this did deserve an 8 and an acceptance. So I think it's a nice portrait. Next, please.
Here is Morning Mist by Don Bach.
Okay, so it may be a very similar spot to the last one that we talked about, but this one is different in that, and I don't know if it's the same photographer or not. I have no idea. But what this does is it simplifies the image. I like the mood. It's, you know, probably that early morning mist and such, and you have just that singular tree and the bridge, and it simplifies the image significantly from the last one. Again, I don't mean to compare it, except that they're both in the salon. So so this is, to me, is more pleasing in that it really just, you know what I know what I'm supposed to look at. So the simplification, the mood, quite nice. All right, so next.
Here is Night Moves by Mick Richards.
Okay, Vic, all right. Hey there. I like this one. You know, it was the right moment with just the right amount of ripple effect in the water to give it some more interest. You included what you needed to up on top so that there's reference to what you're taking. You know, left just a little bit of the black on the bottom, which actually kind of, you know, grounds this image in a nice way. So I think this is a good eye and you know, a pleasing image for the assignment. Next, please.
Here is Reflections in the Bumper of a 1957 Chevy, also
Yeah.
by Mick Richards.
All right, Mick. Again, I don't mean to compare, but because there's two different ones, this one I know who the photographer is. It is very clear. You're getting sort of the self-portrait in the bumper, and it's also it's clear that it's the bumper. You can really tell what you're taking the picture of, and so I think you did a really nice job with handling exposure, and you don't have the kind of distraction. And the one piece that I like is, I don't know if it's another car or that red and white stripe thing back there, is kind of cool in there. It adds a bit of interest. So I thought this was done nicely. Next, please.
This is Sandhill Crane by David Heemsbergen.
Okay. I love the silhouette of this, the color and the mood that this projects is really very nice. I think that you maybe could have cropped in to pop it up a little bit, more, but I really think you did a really nice job with this. The color is stunning, and the environment is really well done, and you can see the silhouette of the bird, and nothing's really in the way, so you really got a good
What?
moment
What do you want?
to to have
No,
this. Oop,
you don't get any.
you better mute. Craig, you need to mute. He's popping up on my screen. So anyway, I think this was just really nicely done. Next, please.
Next, we will move on to the 9s, and we'll start with Greater Yellow Legs by Don Specht.
All right, hi Don. Beautiful image. Tack sharp with the bird, the texture of his feathers, and the position of his legs, and just that little bit of movement in the water. Just really nicely done. You left, space in front of him. All of what you should have done right, you did right. And it's a really cool image. Next, please.
This is Loon Reflection by Marge Springett.
All right, Marge. Um, you see a lot of loon images. I don't always see them, in their nest. So this was really stuck with me. The reflection is beautifully done, well composed. You got the entire, nesting brush and stuff in there. A little of that greenery on the left-hand side was just the perfect amount. So I think you did a really excellent job with this image. So congrats. Next, please.
Next is Muskrat Hands by Marge Springett.
Okay, we have a cute little thing there, and handled again all the basics: good exposure, good composition. He's looking into a space where there's enough space. You have part of the dam there, or the reeds and so forth, and good reflection, sharp image, and cute little bugger. So you kind of have all the awe factor, so nicely done. Next, please.
Here is Reflection in Gold by Mary Johnson.
The kind of the artistry of this is just really kind of striking for me. Again, you had the colors are stunning. Okay, once again, you've got that sort of monotone, if you will, but just it's just an artistic, lovely image that stuck out for me as a really creative way of presenting this. And the reflection was, really excellent. And the thing that you may want to be aware of is, and again, this is on my screen, that the highlights, you could probably bring them down a little bit because they're a little hot in the white. But otherwise, I think this is a really striking image. Next, please.
Here is Spotted Sandpiper by Don Specht.
Yeah, another really fabulous image. Beautifully, the bird is gorgeous. The reflection is, kind of perfection on that. Really, really nicely done. And so I don't have any major criticisms whatsoever. And I just think it's a really well done image. Next, please.
Now we're going to do our 10s. We'll start with Green Heron Fishing. This is by Diane Herman.
Okay, Diane, yay. I love his perch. The water is exceptionally beautiful. The splash, of the water, either he just, stuck his beak in or whatever. So you have action in this and movement in it. And I love, it just looks like he's looking in the mirror. So I love that aspect of it, that he's looking at himself and, or she. There's just, the action is great. And if you look at the water in the back, kind of that circular piece to it, again, it adds to the interest in this image. Really nice image. Next.
And finally, Reflecting on a Sunset by Fred Sabatka.
Okay, Fred. Gorgeous portrait. Absolutely gorgeous portrait. The mood, the color, her outfit, her pose, the sun, and the reflection on, like right under her knee, between her legs there with the sun's reflection. You paid attention to everything in this image, and it's really exceptional. Really nicely done. I have I have no criticism whatsoever in this. It's beautiful. So nicely done. Next.
All right, we'll be moving on to creative now, and we'll start with the 7s, starting
Okay.
with Colorful Nighttime Condos.
Okay. This being the creative topic in this salon, I had to really pay attention to what my responsibility was in looking at what's the creative aspect, and it's to start with a photograph, and then you can do anything with it. I like the photo. I like the movement and the clouds in the sky. The colors are very nice. The but in this, and I try not to do the but, it looks like really nothing creative was done with the processing. And that is where you fell short on this particular piece. And you could have done, with in creative, you can do almost anything as long as you recognize it as a photo to begin with. And so go back to the drawing board and just play with it. And then, again, resubmit perhaps. That's up to you, but play with the image, because that's what your category is. And this doesn't quite get there. Okay, next, please.
Next, we have Euro Clover in Reflecting Pond.
Okay. this may have gone into the assignment one, in that there's, some reflections going on. I know that your subject is, is the, I'm not sure what kind of a plant that is, but that's where your eye goes, and the rest of it is kind of distracting. And it appears like a pretty straightforward image, and not done with anything kind of creative, that I can tell as a judge. I don't know what you did or didn't do, but it does not appear that it was really altered in any significant way. And so pay attention to that when you're submitting to this particular category. It's crucial. It's why you're having this kind of salon category. So that's why it did not score very high. Okay, next.
Next is a grizzly bear.
Okay. I think this is a fabulous image of the bear. Great textures, great, sharp everywhere you need it to be sharp. I like the background and the blur in the foliage back there. But the reason it doesn't score is because it really doesn't fit much in the creative. I don't see anything that you did really different with it. Had you put this into the nature category, you probably would have gotten a 9. So I don't mean to be critical, but that is what I make the big bucks for. No, I'm teasing, I don't. But put it in nature, you're gonna get a good score on this. Put it in creative and you got a low score. So sorry about that, because it's a beautiful shot. So did everything right except put it in the wrong category. So that's that. And next, please.
Next are the 8s. We'll start with Bounty by Carl Wegener.
Okay. This was a snapshot that turned into like a watercolor, so I like what I feel bad for the critters, but I like what you did with the image. You have it's sort of like you took kind of a image for me, because I don't like seeing that stuff, but per se. But you made it an artful photo, and it deserved, I'll get past my own ooh factor, because it's well done in terms of what you did creatively with it, and I think it's really cool. So congrats. It looks it is deserving of an 8 and an acceptance. So next, please.
Here is Ghostbusters Proton Blasters, Don't Cross the Streams by Steve Blocker.
Okay. I like, it's an interesting photo, not one that I see a great deal of, but I think it's really nicely done. It's, it's simple in its own right, in that it totally fills the screen, and it holds my interest, and I think you did a nice job. I love how sort of this unusual colors and waves, underneath the image toward the center right. It's cool. The texture is also in whatever a concrete floor. I'm not sure what it's on. I have no idea, but the textures are cool. The proton blaster, Ghostbuster thing, I think really does a nice job in this creative category. Next, please.
Moving to the 9s, we have Chico Boxes Next Week, appearing on ESPN. This is by Mick Richards.
Okay. I really enjoy images like this. You composed it really nicely in terms of where these where the guys are, and so there's interest in sort of that movement of the guy on the left, the sort of rusty kind of tones that you put in this, I think really is what made this pop for me. Besides it being a cool composition and, love kind of images of doors and texture and so forth. I think you just did a really nice job with this looking very, again, kind of artsy, which is what you want in this category. So nice job. Next, please.
Here are the tens, starting with Crabapple Blossoms by Rebecca Van Dyke.
Okay. It starts with a really nice image of the crabapple blossoms. Really just a nice image of them. Simple, not cluttered. The background is done well, and you turned it into a beautiful watercolor. My spouse, she's a watercolorist, and I see her do things of this nature with her painting, and you took this photograph and just created such a beautiful, beautiful painting, and really nice job. Congrats. Next, please.
Sunflowers with a Twist by Don Specht.
With a twist, they certainly are with a twist. Very nice image, Don. I have to, sit down with you and learn how to do those kinds of things on Photoshop. But again, you start with a beautiful, beautiful image of these sunflowers and the background, within that, and the swirl or the painterly effect that comes with this swirl. Offset with the blue in the background. It's just really a beautiful, well done image. Congrats, Don. Next, please.
And finally, The Face of Innocence by Melissa Anderson.
All right. Again, cute factor definitely there. Really a beautiful subject. Looking right at the camera, and so the subject itself is really really sweet, really nicely done. But oh my gosh, look at the surroundings and the blur of these flowers and whatever, grasses in the background. You really created such a lovely image that it's sort of like I couldn't take my eyes off of it. It's really nice. So nicely done. Next, please. Are we doing okay on time?
Moving on to nature.
Am I yakking too much, or are we good?
Oh, no, you're doing really well.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Just
great.
making sure time-wise we're good, so.
That's good. We're in the sixes of the nature category, starting with I Prefer Toasted.
I'm not quite sure where that title comes from, but that's okay. Titles are hard to make. Hang on, I'm going to take a sip here. So, what I do like about this, I like the color scheme up and top. You can tell it's like kind of either early, sunrise, sunset, somewhere in there. So you have some nice colors. And you've grounded it with a bit of the shoreline, so it actually balances out pretty well. The bird itself is not terribly sharp. It's actually a little bit blurry, and so in nature, what you really need to have is a really sharp image. A little catch light in the eye, those sorts of things that are going to really enhance the photograph. The other thing, up on top, I don't know if it's a, if it's you have a couple of dust spots actually in there, that big one up there. I don't know if it's a dust spot or not, but you could easily crop that out. And then there's two more kind of coming up. Yeah, you can see them there. So just be aware of those things. And that little spot, again, I'm a little picky about edges, but that one on the left, just across, left center, you could crop that little piece out really easily and get that out of there. It's just those pieces that will kind of bring up your scores, because I know that's what you're after. But it will also help you just feel like you're kicking up your photography a notch. All right, next, please.
Here we have long-eared owl in flight.
Okay. I think you caught the owl, in a good posture, good. I kind of like how you have the underside of one wing and the outside of the other, which is great. And if you look, the image is not terribly sharp, but I think more than that is you have it taking up such a small part of the image. I do like how you manage the background and you manage the exposure and such. So the background is pleasing. There's just kind of a little too much of it. And you need to make the owl be a larger part of the image. And that would have potentially increased your score. Next, please.
Here we have moon sandhill crane.
Okay. All right. The sandhills in front of the moon, that's kind of a quintessential image. There's no question about that. And I think you handled the moon very well, and the gray around, the sky. Again, I think all handled very well. But if you look at every one of the birds, they have this rim of white around it, which tells me that somewhere in your processing, you've got that, what is it, chromatic aberration or what have you, and you need to adjust that. This would have scored definitely higher because everything else you had going for it, but that doesn't work. So it may have been your processing piece, because it certainly did not lower your score by the actual image itself, because I think it's really cool. So that's my thoughts on that one. Okay, next, please.
Okay, next we have neighborhood meeting.
Okay. Love the herons. They, I think, are done quite well. You've got good texture. The environment is well done. The exposure is handled well. The thing that is kind of awkward about this image is having I think that's an anhinga in the background, probably a Florida shot, is that it's distracting. You also have one coming kind of blurred, but coming out of the heron's on the right, coming out of its head. So those are distracting. And so I know you can't, control what the birds do, but you can wait until something changes. So that's why this did not score higher. Okay, next, please.
Winter visitor.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm a little, so this is a 7?
This is a 6.
A 6.
There's another similar image, I think,
I am not sure
in the
why it is.
7s.
Seriously, I may have, I may have screwed this particular image up, and because I don't think it's I don't think it sits in the sixes.
Well,
Um,
if you say so, we can change the score.
I think
Yeah, I
I
can
think I'm
change
changing.
it.
I may have had a little brain fart on this one because I
Well,
think this is nicely done. So my apologies. That's on me. Um, you were going to say something, Terry or Jill?
there, there's a similar image that possibly they got switched when I'm looking at them now.
Okay.
We'll come up on the next one shortly. That was actually
Okay,
in the seventh, so maybe
well,
this one. And they
well,
have similar names too, but it's not the same person. So
okay,
kind of
well,
funny
I'm
that way.
sorry if I kind of screwed this up, so let me just, do this one, cold, because I really think that this, fits in the 8 category, rather than even in the 7, and it's sitting in the 6. So, I really apologize for that. That's on me. Because, the perch, the background, there's obviously some hot spots in it, but generally speaking, it's not distracting because you've got snow coming down. You've got a lot of interest in this. The bird is sharp, the texture. So I really, so if you would, you can change it to an 8. And again, my apologies, and that's the last I'll apologize for it. The thing that may have actually brought it up higher is bring the highlights down, get rid of that stuff in the right, in the top corners. And even just vignetting it to a degree may bring those highlights down. But otherwise, I think this is a nice image. So you can change it as you will. So give this one an 8 and we'll move on.
Will do.
Thank you.
Now we're moving to the 7s, and we'll
Okay.
start with Around the Bend.
Okay. This Carrie's interest. It's got that kind of nice S curves going in. You did well with giving enough foreground to give it interest, and there's interest in the sky. The colors are well done. The piece for me on this, it just seems almost a little over processed, like a little oversaturated in the, like the oranges and such. And I could be wrong, but that's just my eye that hits that. I also think that sort of those kind of dead trees in the middle are a little distracting. If you'd have chopped them down, it would have worked. No, I'm just teasing. But they don't add interest into the image. They actually kind of detract from it. So that's why it got that score. So next.
Okay, here is Gull with Fish.
Okay. Now this is one because we're sitting in the nature category, that I think this would have scored high in the creative category. Now, because I'm not sure exactly what happened with the processing, but it's very kind of painterly, and kind of I think just belongs probably more in the creative category because you don't have like sharpness. If you look at the feathers in the that they're almost kind of watercolorish, and as is with the fish. So I don't dislike this image. I actually like it quite a bit, but I think it really belonged in the creative category. So the fact that you have all these different categories to deal with, really be discerning when you are deciding where it goes. Because this probably would have gotten a 9 or a 10 in creative, but in nature, it didn't. It's not an acceptance because it just doesn't fit with the nature category. So anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, whoever took this. So, all right, next, please. Okay.
This is Hovering.
Okay. Very, on some levels, a very cool image. The pose, of the bird is really quite nicely done. So you really caught it in a great moment. And you handled the background and really the exposure pretty well, in spite of it being kind of a, you know, bright day. But it's not sharp. And I understand if the wings are not sharp and the, you know, tail feathers aren't, because there's movement, but the head and the eyes and the beak are not sharp, and they need to be. So had they been, this would have scored higher. And sorry about that, but just be aware of that, and you can move on to the next one, please.
Watchful antelope.
Okay. Simple subject, nice subject, and you know, the way he's looking off, kind of towards you. I think the composition is really quite well done. You may have cropped in a little bit further, and but again, you were showing some of the environment as well. The thing that was difficult on this is, you know, his, you know, butt end. Just really the highlights are way too hot on any of the white, on at least on his tail. And then, you know, his head is not as sharp as it really needs to be. So but composition wise, I think he did a nice job, and handled all the other aspects except that exposure piece and the highlights, you handled pretty well. So that's why it received a 7. Next, please.
This is winter red.
Okay. All right. Um, I, you know, love cardinals, love, you know, the image is well done. He's looking at you. You caught him on a nice perch. Um, the bird itself is not sharp. It's actually rather blurry. You'll even look at the catch light, it's kind of double on there. So you need to get sharp in nature. It's just the nature of the game here. And the background, though, I think you handled it well in terms of you know, kind of blurring out the background. But there's a little too much of it. It's kind of just, it's fairly distracting. And so just trying to get it in a different spot, and then making sure that that head is just tack sharp, because you want the texture, you want all that in this kind of an image, and just wasn't quite there. Okay, next, please.
Moving on to the 8s now, we'll start with Crane Hunting by Marge Spriggett.
Okay.
Springett, I'm sorry.
Okay. Again, composition, very well done. You left room in the front of the bird, and you left enough room on his tail end as well. You've got him, you know, walking through the brush, kind of eyeing something. I think the bird is sharp. The texture is really nicely done. You know, the habitat around it is, you know, just where they hang out, and but there's nothing distracting about it. I think it helps enhance the image, and the fact that none of the reeds or, you know, brush was in front of the bird, with one minor exception kind of at the neck, but not at the head. In fact, I didn't even see that until right now. But so nicely done in terms of timing of this image. Next, please.
Next is Dogbane Beetle by Marge Springett.
Okay. Ew, but ew, you know, very cool. You got everything pretty sharp on it, where it needs to be sharp. The colors and the you know, on the beetle is they're just beautiful, just beautiful. The iridescent of it. Fortunately, not too much kind of highlight overdue on some of that, you know, where the sun is coming in, you know, on his head, a little overblown, but not bad. And then the background, extremely well done. The leaf that he's sitting on and chomping on, also very well done. So really good image. Next, please.
Next is Winter Green by Steve Plocker.
Okay. Um, Several things that I think are nice. I like how much silk you put into the water. Sometimes that can really be overdone and sometimes kind of underdone. And I think you kind of hit this one kind of spot on. And you left enough up on top, but didn't overdo the top with the rocks and so forth, to have it be distracting. But you left enough up there to know where the water is coming from, you know, and enough of the, you know, sort of the icicle thing, is, you just caught it at a good time, and the colors are just, you know, lush and really add to the image. So, nicely done. Next, please.
On to our nines. We'll start with Leucastic Redpoll, Diane Hermans.
All right. Hey, Diane. Uh, you know, beautiful, beautiful subject, simple. Um, you know, the perch, you know, is a little blurry in the upfront. I would have maybe wanted that to be a little less blurry, but of course it's hard to get the bird sharp and the other sharp at the same time if they're not in the same plane. So that really doesn't bother me, because the bird is sharp in all the right places, good texture, just a really nice, simple, lovely subject that you did a really nice job with. And, you know, the blur and the back, you know, the bokeh is really well done. Very nice job. Next, please.
Here is Three-Toed Sloth by Marianne Jerks.
Too fun. It's hard to get the sloth blurry because they don't move fast enough to do so. This is just a great subject. I mean, it's cool. You did a nice job. You know, what needs to be sharp is absolutely sharp. The textures, you know, and his fur is wonderfully done. The background is beautifully blurred. You know, what he's, you know, the branch that he's hanging off of and the expression on his face. I think this is just a fun, really fun image. Very nicely done. Next, please.
And on to the tens. Wood Duck by David Heemsbergen.
Okay. You know, I've seen a lot of images of wood ducks you know, our club and others and online and what have you. This is one of those exceptional ones. He's just beautiful. And you know, I mean, he's a beautiful subject to begin with, but the background and how he just pops right out of that background, is just exceptional. It's artistic. It is a great moment in time with the way his wings are spread. And oh, you know, the only thing that I can really complain about this is that I didn't take this image. So there you have it. It's beautiful. I love it. Next, please.
All right, on to pictorial category. We'll start with the sevens. Little House in the Big Woods.
Okay. Um, I, there's you know, there's definitely a cute factor with this image, and you know, don't know if you know how it ended up there. Obviously, somebody, you or somebody else put it there. So it's fun. I like the colors that just pop from the background of the, tree behind it and then the snow and so forth. The piece of this that it's like it takes up such a your subject takes up just such a small amount, in this image that it's kind of overwhelmed by the background, and and the sort of leaves that are blurry in front on the lower left, kind of distracting. So the stuff that you want, you could have probably easily repositioned your image to kind of get what I think you were trying to get at, because those other things are a bit distracting. All right, so that's why that received a 7. Next, please.
Next is Salton Sea Chair.
Okay. Clearly, I recognize what you were wanting us to look at, and actually the tire tracks behind it, kind of everything leads to the chair. So there's no mistaking what you were wanting us to look at here. The rest of it just needs some shift. There's nothing in the sky. The sand is textured, but not particularly interesting. The water behind, again, doesn't pop out at you. And even the lighting on the chair was, you perhaps would have been able to catch it at a different time of day and have the whole thing in light, or catch it on a overcast day that would not have made the subject shaded and so forth. But I kind of get sort of the artistic look that you were going for, but it didn't quite do it for me. Sorry. All right, next, please.
Here we have snow monkeys.
Okay. Um, pieces of that I enjoy. I mean, they're both cute as can be. The kid cuter than the monkey, but I better say that or I'm in trouble. So I like how he's posed. He's got a really nice look. It's kind of, it's a nice portrait, if you will. I actually like the barnwood, or wherever they're posed here. The thing that I might have done differently is like the sky is a little bright behind. I might have tried to position this a little bit different, just in terms of like enhancing the portrait aspect of this, and like the lower part with his legs is not as important as the face and the little monkey thing. Well, we have a phone going off in my background here. Sorry. So I would say crop it in, try to bring the highlights down in the sky a little bit, and that may have enhanced this. So, all right, next, please.
Water drop.
Okay. I think you handled the water drop in this actually quite well. I like the timing of it. I like the colors of it as well. The things that were a bit on the distracting side is the kind of that bright spot, behind it with the orange and some of this, white stuff on the bottom just kind of takes my eye away from what I'm sure you really want me looking at. So the timing of the drop was, caught well. There was just these other distracting aspects of it that kind of detracted from the image. Next, please.
Next, we have the 8s, and we will start with Boca Pier by John Bach.
Okay. Um, I love the simplicity of it. You'll hear me say those things over and over again because I really want to know what you want me looking at. And this is very simple and a compelling subject. I the other piece that I mean, obviously the sky has a lot of beauty in it, and there's this really just this subdued aspect to this and this moody color scheme and kind of those grays and pinks. I think you caught this at a good time, and I love that simplicity, and good for you not putting it right dead center. It's off to the side, so the composition was well done. I just think that this hit a note with me. So good, nice image. Next, please.
This is Jenny's by J. Olson Goody.
Okay. Jay, there you are. I I kept going back to this one and then thinking, is this an acceptance? Is this not quite? But something just kind of kept my interest in here. Not a lot of interest in the sky, that sort of thing. But this, it was just I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to know the history. I wanted to, to understand, kind of where this was and who used this. So for a pictorial category, it just sort of hit the mark for me. The piece off to the right, a little distracting. I probably would have cropped that off and just left it at the end of that bench to the right of the Jenny's structure. But that's kind of piddly. And yay, it would have been lovely to have a little bit more interest in the sky. But that being said, that may have actually distracted from what it is that you want me looking at. So I just thought this just held my interest, and in a sad sort of way. No, I'm just teasing, because there's a little sadness in this, but it evoked that emotion for me, which as a judge, I want that. As a viewer of your, photography, I want that. I want to have some emotion attached to it, and I did. So well done. Next, please.
Okay, on to Leaf Buddy by Betty Bryan.
All right. Well, he is just like buried in those little leaves, and it's really the look in his eyes that is what's intriguing in this. So I think and only catching like half of his one eye, and it's just again, it sort of has a little intrigue in it for me, and and sort of makes me feel like a kid again. So it brings out some emotion. And again, in this particular category, I think that's what you really want. You want the viewer to emote in some way. And it just, it took me back to my childhood, which is yeah, it brought some happy memories with it. So I enjoyed this one. So next, please.
Okay, we're on the nines,
Oh, goodness.
starting with Baby Zoe by Mary Johnson.
Oh, goodness. What can I say? Polka dots, and the eyeballs are more polka dots, and could this be cuter? I'm not sure it could be. That little wisp of hair, under the cap, the boy, I want to know what she's thinking. I'm assuming it's a she. But really, well, Zoe, I imagine it is a she, but adorable, just a capture in the right moment with the right essence showing through, and the blur around it. I think he just did a really nice job of taking the photograph and then processing it with really nice job. She's beautiful. Next, please.
Here's Lindsay dancing, Fred Sabatka.
Okay. Very interesting subject. you catch the movement, you can feel the energy in this image. The background, I mean, there may be some kind of smoky stuff going on purpose in the background, I imagine. You know, a little bit of the light on the left-hand side that she's sort of looking into just illuminates her, you know, and so it's a matter of lighting and movement, and you can almost hear, you know, the music. Really, really nice job on this. I really enjoyed this image. Next, please.
Okay, now the 10th. Hummingbird Challenge by Marianne Dierks.
Holy moly. I mean, like, what in the world? This is gorgeous. I mean, the subjects, fabulous. You got them in two different poses, fabulous. Textures and color and the lichen on the you know, diagonal perch and the background. And again, this is one that, you know, I wished I had taken. So seriously good. Thank you for allowing me to see it. All right, next, please.
That's all we have for
Oh, there's
tonight.
next. No next.
Thank you to everybody for participating, and especially thank you, Nancy, for your thoughtful comments. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Our next salon is in June.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely. And it's, you guys are great to deal with too. And Jill, thank you so much for your communication and your diligence, and Terry for figuring out the getting us all on so we could, you know, witness this tonight. So I appreciate you gals a lot. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Nancy, hope you're doing well. Take care.
I
Thanks.
will.